Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of a Saga on home video and host of From the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 2008. 2007 was kind of a disappointing year, right? It was the 30th anniversary of A New Hope hitting theaters, just as Star Wars at the time, and you really didn't see much in the way of special home video releases at all. Yeah, we had that 30th anniversary tin coming out of Australia. Everything else was kind of oddball items, some afterthoughts, just not a banner year for Star Wars home video. 2008 would pick it up a little bit, not because of any anniversary, though that would play into one of these items. This is the year that we see the Clone Wars animated film hit theaters, and then the television series begin on Cartoon Network. With that comes a veritable flood of home video releases for the Clone Wars film that finally brings a Star Wars product to Blu-ray. So first, some context. Again, this is the year that the Clone Wars will premiere in theaters and the series will premiere on television. This is also the year that's the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that's not a Star Wars thing, but in the future we will see Disney Plus releases for the MCU and Star Wars tending to be released at the same time in batches, so there is a reason to mention it. It's the year of Celebration Japan. It's the year of the launch across multiple video game systems of the original The Force Unleashed. And it's the year of the tragic end of the Legacy of the Force novel series with another major EU or Legends continuity death. In home video, let's take a look at some repackages first and some stuff that we've seen before, because Clone Wars is going to take up the bulk of our time this time around with a ton of releases and exclusives. In the US, you may recall that in 2006, we had those 2-disc releases for the original trilogy. The 2004 disc released again with that cut of the film, plus those original unaltered editions that were actually the 1993 Definitive Collection Masters, etc., that we talked about quite a bit before, those being released as bonus discs in those 2-disc packages. But there were no boxed sets, unless you count the 10 set you could get as an exclusive to Best Buy. Well, in 2008, we finally do get a boxed set for the original trilogy in that form that is just a regular boxed set. Moreover, we had never seen a box set for the prequel trilogy on DVD, unless you count Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones getting that Saga DVD pack that is best forgotten because it was so dumb. Well, now we get 2 new trilogy sets. So we have here the prequel trilogy getting its own box set for the first time, and all of the releases are the same as what we saw in 2001, 2002, and 2005, except now they are in slim cases. Those slim cases then go into a slip case, loading in from the side. The same thing with the original trilogy. I love the fact that the packaging is kind of designed so they sort of mirror each other here in terms of their design. But again, this is basically just those releases that we just saw out of 2006. They still do say widescreen limited edition at the top here, and they're now in slim cases. It is kind of interesting, though, that they just kept that same design that still says widescreen up at the top. Same thing with the prequels, except, of course, for Phantom Menace that always had the tagline up at the top, because this is the year that finally we ditch full-screen DVDs in the United States for Star Wars. In 2006, they were kind of pushing us that direction, right? All the store exclusives for the original trilogy tended to be for the widescreen versions. Full screen was just kind of there. Now, full screen is just straight up gone, and we finally join the rest of the world in widescreen only. Except everything is still marked widescreen because it's just using the same packaging carried over. There's still no set of all 6 films, but we're getting closer. We'll see that in about 3 years from this point in time. And again, also in North America, as before, because when I do have one of these, I do want to show it to you. In Canada, you do have bilingual versions when it comes to the packaging here, so bilingual up at the top, prequel trilogy given its own bilingual bit here, bilingual titles underneath. And in this case, you've got your actual film packages that are bilingual as well. The discs, though, and this one is one of those error copies in Canada where they screwed up the bonus disc label, as I talked about in 2005. Notice there, the actual text on the discs is all still just English. The UK also got these box sets, sort of, and they got some exclusives to go with them. So here's their version of the prequel trilogy. It's not a slipcover. It's a freaking box. And not even like a cool box, just a box that you gotta like open up the top and slide the packages out. Again, no markers for widescreen because, of course, theirs didn't need it. There's likewise an original trilogy set, but again, these are boxes. You gotta pop open the box at the top, kind of dump your content out, and then there's your 2-disc DVDs. Again, same as 2006, just packaged in slim cases and slipped, in this case, into a box rather than a slipcover. But those weren't the only versions you could get in the UK. In the US, there weren't exclusive versions of those. In the UK, they both got an exclusive, both through HMV. The Prequel Trilogy, still a box, same stuff inside, so no need to open it. The Prequel Trilogy got this package here with Anakin on it. And the original trilogy got the white package here with Luke on it. Mexico, meanwhile, got in on the action of the 30th anniversary late. You might remember there was that Australian 30th anniversary tin last year. This thing here, right? We saw it in the last episode. Well, Mexico gets its own 30th anniversary tin as well. And you'll notice here, holy crap, that is a much larger tin. What could possibly be in here? Well, inside this fancy schmancy tin that looks a lot like what we saw out of Australia, first off, the lid pops off. It's not a hinge. And it's this. Wait, what? Okay, so that's nice. It's kind of a glossy looking Spanish language version of the 2005 DVD set in terms of its slipcover, but surely this is going to be like Turkey. It's 2008. So it's got to be like Turkey back in 2006, where this on the outside is from 2005, but surely what's inside is from 2006, right? Nope. They got a reissue of the 2004/2005 stuff, which of course in this case is actually in the package that is the 2005 package from a US perspective, here in 2008 as part of this boxed set. So no bonus disc with Empire of Dreams, also no bonus disc with the unaltered editions, just a reissue of the 2005 set with those 2004 discs slapped into a tin with the 30th anniversary slapped on it a year late. Weird. Again, sticking with oddballs for just a little bit before we hit Clone Wars. Last time we saw that the You Can Draw Star Wars book got a supplemental web video series by Matt Bush that started to be collected on DVD as You Can Draw Star Wars Volume 1, though it didn't say Volume 1. Here in 2008, we get the second collected volume of those on DVD. So we have You Can Draw Star Wars Volume 2. And of course, 2007 was a year of a lot of like TV specials and stuff like that, parodies and whatnot. So some of those are hitting DVD also in 2008. We have Star Wars Tech from the History Channel. This was actually a DVD that was a Star Wars Shop exclusive at the time. So this came out in 2008. They had done the first Robot Chicken Star Wars parody special, so it gets a DVD release here in 2008. And the first of the Family Guy trilogy of Star Wars specials hit as well on DVD in 2008, so you have sort of a standard edition here. This was kind of a big deal, actually, because this is right around the time where we start to see, thanks to releases like this one, digital copies being included with DVDs, except in doing so, at this point, it's typically a code to unlock it, but then the digital copy itself is actually on a DVD disc inside your package. So we had sort of a standard release of this one, a DVD for the special, a DVD for the digital copy, and they did a fancy schmancy set meant to mirror the 2004 DVD set of the original trilogy, but this is just for their parody of A New Hope. Kind of a nice big package here. It all folds out like so. You have an Art of book, like we've seen Art of Star Wars stuff show up, like the Phantom Menace one back in 2000. You have cards designed to look like original trilogy trading cards from Topps back in the day. There's a 3D portion on the disc, so you have your Anaglyph 3D glasses here, cyan and red. You had your DVD, again, with a disc for the actual special, but then the digital copy on an actual disc. And you had a packed-in little t-shirt. And yes, anytime we see a t-shirt in something like this, with the exception of one from Thailand, I believe, I'm going to have an actual one unpacked to show you. So this is the design from Family Guy Blue Harvest's special release. So basically the two primary sort of Lucas-sanctioned parodies of this era, starting home video releases here, we will follow them as they go because thankfully there's not nearly as many of them as there are of something like Spaceballs. And of course the biggest thing that'll take the bulk of our time here for 2008 is The Clone Wars. The Clone Wars film hit theaters in August of 2008. It hit home video in November of 2008. And that matters because remember, we had sort of an original format war back in the 70s, 80s, into the 90s and such, where you basically had, at least in the US, VHS, Beta, Laserdisc, and CED. CED died off first. On the US market, then it was Beta, then Laserdisc, for Star Wars at least, then eventually VHS, heading into the era of DVD as the primary way that people would watch films, as we have seen here. There were other competitors in that era. You had VHD, you had VCD, and so forth. You had Video 2000/VCC/V2000 that you had out of the UK. You had a Video 8 and whatnot, but lots of different competitors all competing in that format war. There was essentially a second format war, though, brewing in the mid-2000s between two competing formats that would be in HD. That is high definition, going from 480 to 1080 when it comes to your resolution options. We're not going to go too technical with this, but suffice to say, crisper, clearer picture on media that would have crisper, clearer sound as well. But there were two of them competing at the time. And just as an example here, I have the film Bullet with Steve McQueen. Why do I have these? There's actually a documentary on these called The Cutting Edge about film editing that has some Star Wars stuff in it. But it's not something really that's relevant enough to feature here on the show, except here in 2008, as we're looking at the Clone Wars, it's important to note which two were fighting it out in this era. You had HD DVD and Warner Home Video, who is the company that's going to be putting out the Clone Wars film and TV series until the end of Season 5 here. They were actually a very big early proponent of HD DVD. In fact, this one is from Warner Home Video itself here. That's from 2007. Except HD DVD didn't get as much of an install base as Blu-ray did. Why? Because Blu-ray, aside from just being a solid format, as HD DVD was as well, Blu-ray was given a boost by the fact that the PlayStation 3 video game system was a Blu-ray player. It could play Blu-rays out of the box. You could get an HD DVD player for the Xbox 360, but it was an add-on kind of thing, didn't really catch on. So because of that install base, among other things, but primarily the install base, you had a big push towards Blu-ray on the market, not as much for HD DVD. So in January of 2008, Warner, who had supported HD DVD, said, you know what, we're going to support both. And by June, they said, nope, we're just going to support Blu-ray now. Then 2 months later, Clone Wars hits theaters. 3 months after that, it hits home video. So we really kind of missed the possibility of an HD DVD Star Wars release, at least for the Clone Wars, by a matter of months. Instead, HD DVD was dying, Warner had jumped ship, and it'd be Blu-ray that we would see alongside DVD for the Clone Wars. So let's start in the US with what you might call the normal releases, then we'll look at the exclusives to different retailers. So the fanciest, schmanciest way that you could get a regular release was to get Clone Wars on Blu-ray. And if you got it at the time, you would see it with the different stickers on it and whatnot. There is a digital copy code included, coming off of a disc again. But here is your Blu-ray release with a nice lenticular cover. Take all the stickers off and you get the one that I actually have here opened up. Underneath, you have just the regular cover here with Anakin. In subsequent restocks of the same thing, after the first rounds kind of made their way through stores, you wouldn't actually see this slipcover anymore. And instead, you would just see a copy with all those same stickers and whatnot, just on shrink wrap over the interior case. These days, finding one with the actual lenticular cover tends to be the toughest hunt for this particular release. But inside, along with your digital copy code, you had a Blu-ray, which had the film and cool bonus features, and the digital copy on a DVD disc. Now, the bonus features, again, quite extensive. And what's really cool about this, what's really cool about the Blu-ray version, is that rather than just an audio commentary that you would typically see on other things like Star Wars DVD releases, this has a video commentary. Basically, the film playing on part of the screen, and the creators on another part of the screen watching it and giving their commentary like you'd see in an audio commentary, but done where you can see them. One of the cool things in the early life of Blu-ray was doing experimental things like that. I believe it was Watchmen, where at some point it would pause and like the creator would scoot over the screen and come on the screen and actually talk to the audience and then disappear and the movie would start again. Kind of some cool experiments going on early on, but we'll only see that type of thing, at least for the full length of a Star Wars film or episode, just in this. But you have the Blu-ray standard release here with the lenticular cover, at least on the first copies that you could get. You could still get the film on DVD with most of the same bonus features, no video commentary, but there's an audio commentary here. Again, if you were to get it in the store, you got yourself your digital copy, little sticker here. So the sticker here, which is also on the Blu-ray, does say the first animated Star Wars movie. Haha, we don't count you, droids or Ewoks or Clone Wars, because this was actually in theaters and isn't just made up of episodes spliced together. Okay, no, it is episodes spliced together, but not spliced together just for home video. They were spliced together for the theater to premiere the series. Take off the stickers, it'll look like this. Better way to see the lenticular cover. Inside, there's your cover. Anakin again. It says 2-disc special edition up at the top. Again, film disc. And in this case, bonus features on a bonus features disc with the digital copy. So in the Blu-ray copy, the only thing you needed on DVD was the digital copy. Here, you need that second DVD for that and for all of your cool bonus features. So again, lenticular for those first ones that hit stores. I would note, by the way, in case you happen to be looking for these online, sometimes you will run across this one here. This is the Canadian one. You can tell because of the bilingual stuff on it. So if you happen to find one online and it looks very similar to this, but it's got this weird little patch of text here, and you're like, what is that? It's the Canadian version of the same thing. You could also just get a single disc release in the United States. This is what that package looks like here. They are all widescreen, by the way, no full screen for the DVDs. And it's just the film disc itself. No cool bonus features. It does have the commentary on it, the audio commentary that's on the DVDs, but not the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray has the video commentaries and all. So you do get commentaries, but pretty basic as a release, kind of the budget item here. And this was also the version, by the way, that was put out for rental, with slightly different packaging design, but pretty much exactly the same thing that you would get from that retail version. And of course, what would a new Star Wars release be without some store exclusives in the US? It's kind of the usual suspects here that we'll see a lot. Circuit City was kind of the oddball back in 2006. But here we have Best Buy again, this time with a steelbook. It's a sealed version here, but then here is what the actual steelbook itself would look like out of the packaging. Different disc labels, but otherwise the same content with the code and everything as your 2-disc special edition DVD release. It is DVD though. So it's a DVD-sized steelbook. It will not match any of the other American Star Wars steelbooks at all. It's the only time that there was a Star Wars steelbook for a DVD-only release in the United States. Jumping out of the country for just a moment, if you do want to get yourself a steelbook for the Clone Wars film to match at least the size of all of our Blu-ray steelbooks from many other releases and subsequent things like 4K, there was a steelbook for the Clone Wars, though this is actually part of the design, it's not a J-card or anything, based out of the Netherlands. So you could get the Dutch version if you wanted to, just to match things up, because the US version, again, was that larger DVD steelbook. Another of our usual suspects is Target. And there were 2 exclusives this time at Target, depending on if you wanted Blu-ray or DVD. This is the Blu-ray version here. And the reason why it's packaged like this is that this is a slipcover over top of an interior cover with a different variant cover design, but essentially the same packaging inside as the regular Blu-ray. So you got your disc, different label there. Let's see, right there. But then you got your digital copy code slip, your digital copy on an actual DVD disc and all. Little piece of cardboard underneath it to hold it up. Why? Because it needed to be a little bit taller. Because the other thing packaged in with it is a special variant cover version of the first issue of the Star Wars The Clone Wars Digest series from Dark Horse Comics called Shipyards of Doom. I say variant cover because this is the variant from Target. This is the original version as released just as a standalone comic in comic shops and whatnot. So if you're happening to look for this, this one is a Target version, which also means if you find this by itself, it's not a complete product because it should be inside with the Target Blu-ray or DVD, as we'll see in a second. That one, of course, is this. A DVD version of the 2-disc special edition. right? No need for a little cardboard piece because the comic size is the same size as your DVD case. DVD case, again, with its own special artwork here and art on the discs. There was also an exclusive at Walmart, and I must say this seems to be the absolute hardest one to find out of any of these. That was this. So what you got here is a single disc DVD release plus a book packaged inside. So again, the DVD is just, and mine is still sealed, the regular one disc DVD release. But it's packed in, again with some cardboard around it to make up for the size, a tiny version of the book Star Wars The Clone Wars The Battle Begins. And I say a tiny version because the actual book for retail is this bad boy. So, small version, basically the same book, but small version here inside the Walmart home video exclusive. Large version, just a regular retail one for bookstores and whatnot. And this will be some commemorative figure packs. We'll look at those here in just a second because right now, since we've already jumped out of the US a little bit when looking at those, let's continue to do so here for just a moment. So in the UK, you can get a single disc release. I'm not going to show you all the different ones from the different regions because I don't have a lot of ones from different regions. But in the UK, for example, there is a gold package variation of it, but it's still just the single disc release. More interestingly, in the UK, is that you can get the Clone Wars on a format that never saw a single Star Wars home video release in the US, at least not for Star Wars itself. There was one for the Family Guy Blue Harvest parody, and that is UMD. A UMD disc is a Universal Media disc which plays inside a PlayStation Portable PSP video game system. The regular one, not the PSP Go that was all digital that I wound up buying so that I could never actually play any UMD films. In Australia, they had a pretty interesting one here. You have a 2-disc special edition, but it's in packaging like the US regular 1-disc version, but it has a little bonus item that it says there. It includes bonus The Clone Wars tattoo sheet. What? Yes. Alongside some little advertising stuff and your disc for the film and the bonus features with no digital copy or anything, you actually had a set of temporary tattoos in this package from Australia. Kinda neat, not something we see much with home video. And you might be thinking, okay, we've talked about the format wars. One of those formats was still kind of lingering in some regions like, well, Indonesia, because we've seen some VCDs from different parts of the world. What about the Clone Wars? Was VCD still around for the Clone Wars? Well, we'll see one from Turkey well into the future here, but yes, in 2008, there was an Indonesian VCD release of the Clone Wars. And a disc labeled similar to what we saw on the DVDs. Most notably, this was full screen, unlike the DVDs that were all widescreen. And finally, like the Clone Wars Micro Series releases, this wave of releases for the Clone Wars film wound up with a pair, just 2, of commemorative DVD action figure packs. Oddly, it still says DVD even though Blu-ray was the big deal this time around. So they don't really have special names for them, but you got this one here, this commemorative DVD collection underneath. DVD not included, of course. We have Anakin, a clone trooper here, and R2-D2. The other one is General Grievous, Obi-Wan, and sort of a generic battle droid. These were exclusive, as you can see here, to Walmart. Woo! So yeah, thanks to that release of the Clone Wars film, and the fact that quite a few store exclusives are going to tend to exist for Star Wars releases from here on, at least for most major releases, it was a pretty busy 2008. The next big moment won't come until 2011 with the Blu-ray release of the complete saga, or episodes 1 through 6. What'll happen in the 2 years in between? Well, we'll examine the first of those years next time as we take a look at 2009.